Hey, it's Mike from MPC Stuff. I feel like it's been a while since I've made a video, but I guess it's because I'm chasing a 2-year-old around everywhere. But anyways, we're here now with the brand new MPC Key 37. It came out yesterday. Of course, we got our hands on one. So right now, we're gonna go in and the feel of the unit is actually pretty nice. It's heavy, but not too heavy where it's not gonna be portable. The color, when I first saw the picture, I didn't really love it, but in person it looks a lot better. It has like a sheen to it. It's not that, not matte finish. It's more, not rubberized, like say the MPC Live. It's just got like a smooth satin feel to it. The knobs are all pretty much the same ones as the MPC Live, Live 2, whatnot, which feel good. We have the billet knobs for that. We're gonna put the clear pads on it to make it kind of match the rest of the clear buttons on the unit. The buttons are like the regular old school MPCs that have a little bit of that have tack switches to them. So that's nice to have. So we're gonna start with doing the pads first. So I'm gonna turn the unit over and show you what we need to do. As you can see, the back of the unit, it's pretty basic. It's just like a plastic casing here. All these screws on the back are gonna need to come out. So we're gonna start with these ones, but the one thing that you'll notice that's a little different than normal is these on the front here are Torx. It's a T20 Torx bit that you'll need to get these out. You could probably use a hex, but I would suggest getting the proper tool, which would be a 20 Torx. So we're gonna go ahead now and take out all our screws. So now that I took out the smaller screws, there'll be 8 of them that I just took out. All these, I'll call those the smaller ones. So we're gonna put those 8 aside. Now the rest of the screws that you're gonna pull, there's gonna be 2 other types. They're gonna be larger ones and then these Torx ones. So now I'm gonna take out the rest of the larger ones. Now we have all the big ones out, and our last step is going to be taking out these Torx T20s. So now we're going to take these Torx out. All right, now we have the bottom plate screws out, and we're going to go to the next step by pulling it off. Okay, once you open this up, you're not gonna wanna pull it all the way off. You're gonna look underneath and you're gonna see how everything's set up. The one thing I want you to focus on is this cable right here is very, very fragile. You do not wanna pull it out of there or you'll be in big trouble. You have these 2 hold down ties, this one, which I've already taken off, and then there's one up here. If you loosen those, that'll allow you to move the cables around the cables around a little more freely. So once you do that, be very, very careful. And when you're moving, you do have enough room to kind of pivot this over to access what we're looking for, which is the pads. So again, make sure you pay attention to this cable right here, that copper colored one, because it's very fragile. So when you're moving this, just be sure to keep that in your eye and make sure that nothing's hooking up. Okay, so now that I have it out of the way, you're gonna see basically this board here that's holding the pads. We're gonna take out the screws here, here, and here. I need to grab a smaller screwdriver for this one than the one I was using before. All right, so I'm gonna take these screws out now. now we have our screws out and the pad tray. All right, now we took our screws out of there. Those are the, I call the smaller silver screws that go in that pad tray. So we got that out. And now we come to the last step. This is our pad PCB board. It's gonna have the sensors on the other side. We need to take these screws to get the board out. All right, now we're gonna wanna get this up, this PCB board here. I already pulled it out, but I've decided to pull out this one right here and just pull up. Be very careful with these because they're fragile. Over here you see I have a ground wire in this one, so it's easier for me to pull it this way to get to the pads and the sensors. You'll see here are the sensors. Make sure that you keep them the proper side. One side is bright and shiny, that goes against the pads. The dull side is the side that's gonna go against the sensors because that's the carbon that is actually gonna make them go. So now let's pull our original pads out, the black pads, and now we're gonna put in our clear pads from MPCStuff. All right, as you can see, some people have asked if we were making the super thick pads for the MPC1, and I guess also now this MPC Key 37. We wouldn't call these super thick per se, but if you look at the comparison, they're a lot thicker than the normal thick pads are. There might not be as super thick, but that's a huge difference between the two. So we're gonna go ahead and put these thick pads in that are clear, and we're gonna open this up here. Remember, we have our sensor sheet going the proper way still. And we're just gonna put these in. Sometimes it's a little hard to finagle them in just because they're so thick. But we're just gonna load them in. Once we get them in there, we're gonna put the sensor back down. All right, now that we have our pads in, we're gonna put the 4, which I would call the smallest screws. There's 4 of them, and they're 4 small silver screws. So once we're finished with taking everything off, we are ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of screws. So these are the smallest ones that are silver. So we're gonna go ahead and put these back in. All right, now we have those 4 screws in, so our pads are secure. We feel them on the other side. And we're gonna put this ribbon cable back. And it just kind of presses in. Press that cable in. Make sure it's straight, make sure it goes all the way in. There we go. So now that we have that cable in, we're gonna put the plastic tray back on. Got our tray back on, and then the next screws we're gonna use are the other silver screws. So you had used the smaller silver screws, the 4, and now you have these silver screws left that, let's see, it looks like we have 8 of them that are gonna go in all the corners of this. So now we're gonna put those back on. We have them all installed. Okay, now that our pad tray's back in, we're just basically gonna put the casing back on. So when we pivot this over, remember we wanna be really careful, especially with that copper cable, and look underneath, make sure nothing's snagging. Looks pretty good here. And I'm gonna re-secure under here, and I'm sorry that you can't see it from here, but those 2 ribbon cable holders rather, the black ones, you're gonna secure them back on to the cables that they were on. It's pretty self-explanatory once you have this on here to see where they go. And you'll remember from earlier where they are. But that's just keeping the cables from moving around inside. Just, like I said, be careful with that one ribbon cable. Okay, we're gonna start with these smaller screws. That's the first ones we took out. So now we have 3 sets of black screws left. We have ones I would call the smaller ones, the bigger ones, and then the medium-sized ones that were the Torx bit. So now we're gonna put those screws back in. Okay, I got the small screws in. It does seem like they were holding the key bed in. Now I'm just gonna go with what I call the larger screws. So the larger screws are gonna go everywhere other than where these 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll just try to remember it because there's right here in the front. That's where those Torx bits are gonna go. So let's go ahead and put the other ones in. So now we have all the, what I'd call the larger screws in. Only thing we have left are these T20 Torx. So we're gonna go ahead and put the last screws in. All right, now we have them all back in. Since I'm using a power drill, I use it at low power, so this is just for my sake. I'm gonna go in and make sure they're all just hand tight. All right, so we're all done putting all our screws back in, and we're gonna check it out. All right, now we have our MPC Key 37 with the MPCStuff extra thick pads. And if you look at them, it's definitely a lot thicker. The normal ones just kind of come up to this, the edge, and these ones protrude a lot. All right, so now we got it here. The extra thick pads are installed. They're a lot thicker, and these ones are the clear ones, so the whole thing lights up, which is a little different than MPC original design, where you have them just on the outsides. We do have the outside ones too. We have black, gray, red, white, so it's not totally clear. But this particular unit, just to try to match these, like I said before, we wanted to go with clear.